Warning: any techniques or actions seen in this video are purely for entertainment purposes. None of the speakers on camera are acting in an official instructional capacity. Do not try this at home. And all that other legal bullshit.
Okay, so today's lecture is going to be the Pyramid of Combatability by Anarchy Arts. That is once again me. So let's get a quick overview of it. The Pyramid of Combatability is a visual tool to help people understand how our entire being, mind, body, and spirit, factors into a combat scenario and combat training. Pretty self-explanatory. So let's start with the body. The combat body is comprised of two elements: athleticism and intangibles. Athleticism covers physical attributes that can be trained and improved: strength, flexibility, stamina, agility, etc. And then intangibles are physical attributes that are predetermined, mostly genetic, that can be honed or compensated for: height, reach, single joints, injury susceptibility, sex, hand size, or for me, astigmatism. So let's talk about some advantages of knowing the body. Being in tune with your athleticism and intangibles is key to forming an effective engagement and strategy. So again, I'm a big, strong 300-pound dude. If my engagement strategy would be to outrun my attackers, that's probably not a very good idea, right? But if I have the plan to overpower them, statistically, if it's one-on-one, that's going to work for me pretty good. And vice versa. If you are a 5'3", 125-pound female and you want to train to, or rather you want the strategy of overpowering somebody, it's probably not going to happen. Being in tune with your athleticism and intangibles is key to forming an efficient training regimen. Okay, so again, if you are a small 125-pound girl and you want to train to be strong, probably more or less a waste of your time. And again, if you're my size, 300 pounds, and I want to train to outrun people, again, I could do it, but it's probably not efficient use of my time. I'm probably better off training to use my size and my strength and the things that I have, rather than trying to train myself to be something I'm never going to be great at. And understanding the combat body of your enemy is key to forming an effective engagement strategy. So let's look at three different tiers here. Let's look at Navy SEALs, police, and gang members. As far definitely for intangibles goes, right, you're going to get a lot more filtering against police and Navy SEALs. You're not going to run into too many people with bone spurs or partially torn knees that are, trying to attack you, and you're probably not going to be more fit than, let's say, Navy SEALs. So if your plan of attack is, I'm more fit and I'm going to use my superior fitness to beat Navy SEALs, probably not going to happen. With police, again, the fitness standards are a little lower, but again, you're not going to have somebody pop out of their patrol car with a busted ankle. Whereas gang members don't really have a standard. There's out-of-shape gang members. There's ones who have bum knees, different deformities. So if your plan is to, let's say, overpower or out-fitness gang members, that's a more reasonable strategy versus fighting somebody who's fit and in shape and trying to beat them with fitness. Just not a very good idea. But the other side of that is that if your enemy is fit, you should probably get yourself in shape and get your body ready to try and compete. So let's talk about the mind. The combat mind is comprised of two components. This is knowledge and form. These can be summed up as what do you know and how well do you know it. Not too much to explain here, but again, if you're studying karate, there's, let's say, 5 different kicks how well can you do those kicks? So how many different kicks falls under knowledge, and how well you can do them falls under form. Pretty self-explanatory. So the advantages of knowing the mind. Having conceptual awareness of knowledge and form is key to forming an effective training regimen. So as far as conceptual awareness goes, this word is from the Three Rings of Combat lecture I did a few weeks ago, or about a month ago. And basically what that is understanding if this right here is as scientifically possible, this is the maximum you can be at, say, kicking somebody in the liver, and the best we've discovered so far is about here, and what it takes to be pretty good at it is here. Finding out where you rank on that spectrum can help you have an effective training regimen. If you're really good at something, but you're kind of, you're really good at kicking, but you're not very good at shooting guns or wrestling, it's probably more effective to train the things you're really weak at than to try and get that next level of mastery on something you're already pretty good at. Now, this sounds like I'm saying the exact same thing, right? Having conceptual awareness of effective knowledge in form is key to forming an efficient training regimen, but it's a little bit different. So basically, this goes back to what I was talking about, right? Is that if you're already really good at something, is it efficient for you to work that until absolute mastery? Or if you're already good enough at it, is it efficient to work on something else? For instance, if you are a Division I wrestler and you're training to use your wrestling in a street fight, is being a Division I wrestler versus an Olympic level wrestler against an average Joe really going to make that big of a difference? It's not, right? But that's a lot of time invested and injury risk, and wear and tear into getting to that next level that you don't even need to be at for the engagements you're going to end up in. Now, obviously, if you want to be an Olympic level wrestler, yes, you need to work on your wrestling. But that's the thing, is if you're already really good at something and you're effective at it, going back to what I said up here, it is better for you to spend your time training things you are less good at and less effective than you trying to work to that, being the best in the world at this one thing, when there's a huge realm of combat and strategies that can be employed against you to counter that one thing you're really good at. And then having relative awareness of your opponent's knowledge and form is key to forming an effective engagement strategy. So again, knowing what your enemy knows is important, right? If you know a guy can kickbox really well and you're going to fight him on Saturday, it's probably better to not try to kickbox with him. It's probably, even if you're a good kickboxer in your own right, it's probably better to try and pick a thing he's not so good at and to try and lean on that and strategize towards that rather than to fight him on his strength. And of course, knowing whether or not the guy is good at kickboxing in itself is a key piece of knowledge and very key to having an effective engagement strategy. So let's talk about the spirit now. The combat spirit can be broken up into three separate categories: instinct, temperament, and resolve. So all three of these attributes are similar to intangibles, as they are predetermined traits that can either be honed or conditioned. And again, by conditioned, it's basically the same thing as compensated for, just more on a mental level. So instinct represents physical actions you would take without any training or conditioning. So again, we go back to the common thing of the flight or fight response, right? If you had no training, no teaching, no whatever, and you're put into a situation where your life is in danger, theoretically, you're going to pick one of those just instinctually. Now, obviously, there's some other variations. There's freezing up. There's going fetal, wetting yourself. There's different instincts here, right? But you're going to pick one of those instinctually with no training. And it's very important to know those instincts, because when your conditioning is overcome, when you were put in a situation beyond your level of training, these instincts are going to come back out. So for instance, if you are naturally a runner when you're faced with danger, but you condition yourself for years and years and years to stand and fight, once you are pushed beyond that level of preparation, you're going to instinctually revert back to running. So it's very important to understand these instincts so that if you need to compensate for them, you can, but also, since these are a natural part of you, you're going to learn these instincts or learn things related to these instincts much faster and efficiently than you would things that are unnatural for you. So it's very important to understand what those instincts are. And then we get into temperament. This represents your internal mind state before, during, and after combat. Now, technically, this does cover your external appearance you put on for other people, but I only put internal because you have to know the internal before you can affect the external, right? If you're, pissing yourself in your mind before a fight, but you want to condition yourself to appear tough and calm and ready, and intimidating, you have to first accept and be aware of the fact that you're pissing yourself mentally. That way you can work and know how to condition and manipulate and do the mental gymnastics and training you need to do to get to the point where you're putting out an outward, appearance that is different from the internal one. Okay, and same thing during a fight. Are you calm? Are you panicking? Are you overly angry? How do you feel inside? And then, of course, after combat, are you juiced up? Are you paranoid? Do you want to get out of there? Are you sick to your stomach? All kinds of different temperaments, that we're all different. And we all have these different natural mental intangibles that are assigned to us, but our awareness of them can help us be more effective in combat. Like me personally, I'm very hesitant before combat, very nervous, not sure whether I should or should not fight. But once we get into combat, once the punches start flying, then I'm calm. I'm very calm because there's not that anxiety of, what do I do? What I need to do has already been decided now. Now I'm just focusing on doing it. So I'm very calm. And then same thing after combat. I haven't lost in a long time, but I'm usually very calm. Fight's over, check my environment, I'm okay, right? Fix my shirt, strut my shoulders, go back to doing what I was doing. But some people handle that different. And then we get into resolve. This represents your commitment and comfort before and after combat. So commitment and resolve is more, let's use the example that you're going to war and you're going to have to kill some people, right? So before, again, your comfort, are you comfortable doing that? Some people are comfortable with that. Some people really, really don't want to. Some people are more indifferent. Again, if you think of insects, most of us, have great resolve when it comes to insects. We don't even think about them. It's not even a second thought. But some people are hesitant. Some people really don't want to do it. They want to let them out. But then we also get into commitment, right? Maybe you really, really, really don't want to kill this person, but they're going to kill your family. So you would rather kill this person and do what you don't want to do, but you're going to commit and follow through with it because the alternative is worse. Or if you're a gang member or soldier and you don't want to do this, but if you refuse to do it, your fellow gang members will kill you if you do it, or your fellow soldiers will arrest you and court-martial you if you don't. You may not want to kill this person, but you would much rather not die and not go to jail. So you commit through it anyways. And then we get into after combat, right? You just took the life of somebody's son, daughter, mother, father, brother, sister. How do you deal with that? There are some people who can sleep like a baby and wake up the next day and strut their shoulders. There's some people who can't sleep and need counseling and, are haunted by that for life. And there's other people out there who sleep better than they ever have and look forward to the next time. And so where do you fall into that? Now, I don't put during here. I'm not going to say when bullets fly because I've never been in that scenario, but definitely for me when the punches are flying and I'm actually in combat or I'm in danger, it's very hard for you to use the outermost layer of cortex where you're thinking about the moral and legal implications of what's going on. It's usually mostly lizard brain, reactionary, and a little bit of your, neocortex for action decision making, right? They're punching me this way, I'm going to slip this way. I've never been in a state during the punches flying where I've been like, what are the moral implications of this? Now, sometimes if I've got them pinned down and the action has stopped, I might be like, okay, now I can start to think about that because I don't feel like I'm threatened in this precise moment. But when shit's happening and you're actively being threatened, it's very hard to think on this level. So that's why I didn't put it during. It's a very hard thing to do during the active engagement. If you're in a knife fight or a fist fight, you're just focused on the fight, and then, once you stab him or knock him down, okay, now let me think about the mental state and my resolve and all that. Okay, so let's talk about the advantages of knowing the spirit. So one important thing is that modern technology has made the combat spirit the most important aspect of combat. Again, 300 years ago, when we were using swords and heavy armor, being a big, strong male like me was a massive advantage. I can carry a longer sword, thicker armor, draw a bow, that can go further and more accurately than smaller, weaker people. So my size and strength, my body superiority was a massive advantage. Now with guns, not so much, right? A post-pubescent teenager can use a gun almost effectively as I can. And it really depends on the training. They've had 2 years of training and I've had 1 year of training, they're going to destroy. They have a clear advantage. Okay, so really it comes down to who has the willpower to pull that trigger. If we both have that willpower to pull that trigger, it comes down to the mind, of course, who's trained better. But again, especially at point blank range, that willpower to pull that trigger is number one. So it's just something to realize is as you use better technology in combat, your body becomes less important and your spirit becomes the most important. So being in touch with your combat spirit is key to developing an effective and efficient training regimen. Okay, so again, this is what we talked about, right? Is when you understand all those intangibles that are assigned to you, the best and most efficient and effective way to train is to hone those instincts. So even if your instincts are to run away, right, you want to train how to be a master of running away and then round out the rest of your game, right? Because again, even if you want to be a fighter and you're fighting and you're fighting and you're pushed beyond your limit, you're going to instinctively run away. And it's much better to be a master of the thing you're instinctually good at than for you to, run away all sloppy because you didn't train that. You just tried to be a tough man and, train to be a fighter when you're naturally not one. So it's important to hone your instincts, no matter what they are, and have that kind of be your A game and then round out from there. That way you train fast, efficiently, and effectively. So you're prepared for when you're reverted back to those instincts. And then having conceptual awareness of the combat spirit is key to building a portfolio of effective engagement strategies. So one thing a lot of people don't know is that the human-to-human experience is an infinite prisoner's dilemma. Despite what you may be raised to believe or the internet tells you or whatever your horoscope says, none of us can get inside another person's mind. You can guess how somebody's thinking and you can be correct, but you will never, ever, ever, ever know their intentions. So you can never get in your enemy's head and know their combat spirit. Even if they seem very tough, they might be shaking in their boots underneath it, or vice versa. They may seem very timid, but underneath it, they're really brave and really violent and whatnot. So again, since you can never get in anybody's head and know their spirit until you're probably already deep into combat or they're already dead, even then you still can never know. It's still good to know in general about the spirit so that you can have a list of engagement strategies, right? So instead of getting in this mind state of, I know this person can be intimidated, so I'm going to, invest everything into intimidating them, and you try and you fail, right? It's okay. Some people can be intimidated. People with like a calm temperament probably can be reasoned with. People who are hesitant can be reasoned with. People who are overly aggressive, burn their energy quickly. And once they're tired and you put them in a compromised position, they can probably be intimidated, reasoned with, right? Just to have a huge portfolio of ways to use their spirit against them that might work, but just be aware that you can never know who they are 100%. So your guess may be wrong and you may have to resort to other mental warfare or just duke it out physically. So it's very important to have that conceptual awareness. Okay, now let's talk about the structure of the pyramid and how it kind of all interacts. So let's talk about the bases. So the bases of the pyramid are comprised of spirit and body because without both of these present, there can be no violent response. A little nerdy and technical here, but again, right, you need the spirit, the willpower to commit violence, and you need a body that is physically capable of delivering that violence. If one of those components is missing, right, you don't have anything. You know, you could have all the willpower in the world and be a straight up killer, you know, but if you're paralyzed from the neck down, you know, unless your brain is hooked up to a tank or a machine gun, you can't do anything. And vice versa. You could be the biggest, strongest, toughest person on the planet, but if you have no willpower to use that, then nothing's going to happen. So both spirit and body have to be present in order for you to react violently, offensively, defensively, etc., etc. The mind is at the top of the pyramid because it is an extension of the base and increases its efficiency and effectiveness. So again, right, I have to have a body capable of violence and I have to have a spirit willing to carry that violence out. If I have both of those things, I can execute violence. I might throw the sloppiest, ugliest, silliest punch you've ever seen, but it is an act of violence. I might throw stuff super inaccurately, or you know, a lot of gang members will shoot really inaccurately, but if I have the body to do it and the will to do it, it'll happen. It just won't look pretty. The mind is about making those things effective and efficient. It's about making that sloppy little punch I throw a lot cleaner and more technical and more accurate. It's about making the gun I'm shooting, you know, more accurate and efficient. So it builds on these bases. You need to have the physical capacity to carry out the act of violence, and you need to have the spirit to follow through and do it. And then the mind is just about making those more efficient. How do I make my spirit and my body work more efficiently towards my goal? And then, of course, this is the takeaway, and this is very simple and obvious, but to build an effective pyramid, you always have to start at the base, okay? Even if you want to throw a spinning kick, right? It's not just about knowing what a spinning kick is and you know, doing repetition. You need to make sure your hips are in shape, right? You need to make sure that your body can handle the stress that you're putting it under to throw that spinning kick. Or again, if you're going to use a gun, you know, having good marksmanship is important. Being very accurate with that gun, you know, 25 yards in a still target is great, but you know, are you in good cardiovascular shape? There's a lot of people, you know, they don't talk about this, but they shoot people in self-defense and then have a heart attack afterwards. It's largely compounded by their obesity, right? Their body cannot handle the physical stress that they're put under, and their heart fails, and they die or end up in the hospital. Or they end up sick, or all kinds of things. They have a stroke, right? So again, just because you know, might have the will to shoot a gun and the knowledge to do it, you still need the body behind it. You still need to train your hands and everything to be coordinated and strong, and you need to have your nutrients and all that. So it's just important to understand that just because you think guns are all mind, you know, you still need the spirit to use it, and you still need at least some physical training to, especially if you're in a sustained shootout, you know, to have good cardio health and good stamina to deal with the stress you're going to be put under. Whew. And as long-winded as that is, it's finally over. So get out there and go train.